All right, everyone. We're starting. The mayor has joined us here, and I'm excited. Look at all of these wonderful advocates here. Thank you for being here today, because we've got a groundbreaking, earth-shattering announcement. We've got important announcements that we're going to be unveiling. I'm honored to stand alongside Mayor Ed Lee and Vice Mayor Annie Campbell-Washington from Oakland. I'm also delighted to have my colleague Asha Safai. Come on closer, guys. Come close. Get in here. We're one big family. I also want to recognize the leading public health experts from UCSF and the community organization and advocates that have joined us here today. My name is Malia Cohen. I'm a member of the Board of Supervisors. I represent the southeastern neighborhoods of Baby Hunters Point, Potrero Hill, and Visitation Valley. And today I'm introducing legislation that prohibits the sale of flavored tobacco products in San Francisco. I'm so glad you are just as excited as I am. Now, these products also include all tobacco products. Let's really be clear, whether they're cigarettes, smokeless, e-products, or anything that is marketed as to having added flavor, and that does include menthol cigarettes. So needless to say, for too many years, tobacco industry has gotten a pass as they have selectively targeted our young adults in the African American community, in the Asian Pacific Islander community, in the LGBTQ community, with products that have deceptively associated with fruits, mints, and candies. So today, Big Tobacco loves vulnerable populations. Nationwide, they advertise 10 times more in black neighborhoods. Thank you. They target marketing of things like gummy bears and cotton candy flavored products near schools to children, as well as in the LGBTQ community, where they experience high levels of stress and discrimination related to homophobia. They smoke at a rate 2 times that of straight populations. R.J. Reynolds, you may not know this, but R.J. Reynolds was even recently busted for a program called Project Scum. And let me tell you what SCUM stands for. It's a horrifying acronym. It means subculture urban marketing, where they are systematically and strategically targeting our brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ community here in San Francisco, right here in the Castro neighborhood. They're also targeting homeless people. They're also targeting communities of color, as I mentioned earlier. Big Tobacco is a predator, and they are guilty of profiling, always looking for new customers to backfill the ones that their products have killed. Many of you have seen the commercials with children misidentifying tobacco products as candy. Everything from labels to flavors that these companies choose for their products, it's done with intent and malice. They want to protect their bottom line, which can only be maintained by constantly cultivating new users. So Big Tobacco achieves their bottom line by pushing would-be new smokers the flavored products. So flavored tobacco products are widely considered to be starter products because they taste good, they mask the flavor of tobacco, they make it easier for people experimenting with tobacco to become lifelong users. Now, menthol, the main culprit in particular, cools and numbs the throat, making the smoke feel smoother, making the outcomes that this product will be making the outcome more harmful to our health and to the health of anyone that is smoking, because we know that secondhand smoke kills. So we have gathered today to stand up and say that it's time for us to focus on flavors. Restricting the sale of flavored tobacco is vital to ensuring that we give the next generation a fighting chance at living a healthy, full life, otherwise cut short by preventable diseases. So let's be clear, smoking hurts poor people most. There's no disputing that. People who are below the poverty level are also more likely to smoke. They pay a disproportionate amount of their income for the product. They pay exorbitant rates for health care expenses, they get sick, and they have to pay with deteriorating quality of life that ultimately ends in a premature death. Like many of the people that are standing up here today, I personally have been affected by the tobacco industry. I lost my grandmother prematurely to a stage 4 emphysema. And she smoked for years Kool's long menthol cigarettes. And I remember as a young adult going to the store to buy cartons of cigarettes for her because the addiction was so strong. One of her last parting words as she was dying in the hospital was to remind me and my sisters never to start smoking. So, needless to say, this legislation is incredibly personal to me and to every person that stands up here with me. This is the time that we are going to stand up and fight for the future generations and stand up and say no more. We are not going to let them be victims to predatory marketing. No more will big tobacco. No more will big tobacco be able to sell their flavored products. No more will selling flavored tobacco products at a suppressed low price incomes in neighborhoods. We're not letting them do this anymore. Before I invite up our beloved Mayor Ed Lee, there are a few people that I really want to thank. First, I want to represent and thank my staff, Brittany Chiquata, that pulled all of us here together. That was instrumental in bringing the issue to my attention and authoring the legislation. I can't thank her enough. I also want to thank my community partners, phenomenal professionals, healthcare providers, and educators and researchers, the UCSF Helen Diller Family Comprehensive Cancer Centers, SF CAN Initiative for their partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, SF CAN has been working for over a year to educate the public about the importance of ending the sale of menthol and other flavored tobacco products in San Francisco. I'm particularly grateful to have Dr. Valerie Yeager. I'm right here. Right here? Okay. Particularly grateful to have Dr. Valerie Yeager, Sister Carol Magruder, and Dr. Phil Gardiner for their leadership on the specific issue. They've educated me and they loved me through this entire process, and so it's a privilege to stand and carry this legislation today. Without further ado, we're going to hear from Mayor Ed Lee, followed by Supervisor Safai, representing District 11. We will hear from the Oakland's Vice Mayor and District 4 Council Member Andy Campbell-Washington, followed by Dr. Valerie Yeager, Dr. Tomas Aragon, Dr. Stan Glantz, Dr. Jonathan Butler, Carol Magruder, and last but not least, we will hear a voice from our future, Ms. Latasha Turner, AKA the 6-footer, a poet, who's going to close out our event. So stay with us. Thank you. Please put your hands together and welcome Mayor Lee. Thank you.
Thank you. Isn't she a wonderful leader, Supervisor Cohen? Thank you for sharing again with us, not only personal stories, but facts. And I'm glad again to join Supervisor Cohen and Safai and the rest of the good-natured and good-hearted, factually based supervisors who are joining our health experts and other advocates to make sure that this really bad word, it really is, it's addiction. That's what Supervisor Cohen is talking about. It's addiction to tobacco products, and that's why they flavor it. They're getting to the kids. They're trying to get vulnerable populations hooked. It's not one cigarette, like somebody might say, or trying something out. It is being hooked that brings in the profit, that continues the deep advertisements into vulnerable communities. I want to single out these doctors, these medical professionals who are with us, because either you listen to them now or you listen to them later when they're treating you at 10 times the expense with your life at stake. Listen to them now, because they can have the foresight of many cases that we already know to be the truth. If you're hooked, if you're addicted, it's going to be too late. And all of us family-loving, resident-loving people of San Francisco and the Bay Area want our communities to be healthier. You are the heroes. because you're pointing out something before it happens. You're helping us look around the obvious corner that if we don't do something for ourselves to keep our communities and families safer and healthier, it will be too late. We don't want that too late to be our mantra. We want to have attacked this thing. We already know it happens. We don't want it to happen to anybody else. And so we've got to tell these stories, as horrible, as wrenching as they are. If we're not open to the truth, we're not going to ever get to the truth. This is about piercing the menthol veil, the candy veil, the false veil of advertising. And I'll be really glad when this approaches my desk, since you'll have me signing it with eager anticipation. Thank you for all your work here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What a wonderful morning it is for the sky to part and the sun to shine on us on such a wonderful piece of legislation. I'm really, really and truly honored and humbled to be here this morning. I'm not only a colleague of Supervisor Cohen, but I consider her a dear friend. I've known her for 14 years, and her leadership on this issue is phenomenally important. And I just say to you, and I know we said this on the day that we were sworn in, what a difference it makes when we have a female-led, female-majority board of supervisors. It's these kind of issues that come to the forefront. So let's not let that be mistaken. So I'm happy to stand here in solidarity with her and co-sponsor this piece of legislation. But I want to just add a couple little facts that I think are really important to think about. The flavored tobacco products that are meant to attract our youth and disproportionately target communities of color and African Americans in particular as it pertains to the menthol industry. And the thing is, they must think we're stupid because they try to deny the facts. Every piece of marketing, every piece of positioning, where it's sold, the proximity, it's always targeting youth and communities of color and low-income communities. So let's be clear about that. In San Francisco, our California retailers, and here in the city, 70% of our retailers that sell tobacco are located within 1,000 feet of schools. That's not a coincidence. Let me say that again, 70% are within 1,000 feet of our schools. So they know what they're doing when they sell flavor and bubble gum and all the different things like that. And then the disproportionate marketing of menthol to African Americans. In one study, and that's in the findings of the legislation that Supervisor Cohen put forward, 82% of users that identified using menthol were African American. That is a travesty. That is a travesty. So we know that the flavored tobacco is considered a graduation strategy as a way to hook our youth, bring them into addiction, and then their consumer base grows. So as much as they like to talk about saying that they're trying to be more healthful in marketing and letting people know about the bad effects of this product, on the other hand, they're doing aggressive marketing to youth and communities of color. So I'm just going to be brief. I just say this personally, as Supervisor Cohen said, I grew up in a household that every other day I was going to the store to buy cigarettes. And finally, when I was 12 years old, I said to my mother, I said, Mom, I don't believe in tobacco. I'm going to tell Steve was my stepfather. I'm going to tell Steve I don't believe in, I'm not going to the store to buy tobacco anymore. And she said, well, I support you on that. But I still had to sit there, as many families do, breathing in smoke and secondhand smoke. This was before we even knew about that. So for me, it's personal too, because children disproportionately bear the brunt of the tobacco industry. So I have 2 young kids here today. I'm proud to say that I'm a co-sponsor on this, and I stand by Supervisor Cohen and Mayor Lee every step of the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I want to introduce next the speaker, the City of Oakland Vice Mayor, District 4, Annie Campbell Washington, who's been an incredible resource and source of inspiration to work with her, not only on this issue. This is an incredibly important issue, but you may recall we were successful last November with passing the sugary beverage tax measure. And this was the woman that held it down in the City of Oakland, who is going to be discussing legislation similar legislation that she's bringing forward in Oakland. Thank you. Yes. Woo!
Thank you so much, Supervisor Malia Cohen. I am honored to be here with you today with a dynamic duo. We first took on Big Soda and succeeded, and now we're taking on Big Tobacco together. I co-authored legislation that we'll be bringing forward on May 9th to the Life Enrichment Committee with City Council President in Oakland, Larry Reed. And you talk about a personal story. He will have his own personal story to share when we bring it forward in Oakland. This touches us all deeply. And as a mother, as a former school board member, I feel that it's unconscionable for us to not act as adults when we know that there is a product killing our children, being targeted to our children, being targeted to our African American communities and our most vulnerable communities. We have allowed Big Tobacco to target our most vulnerable communities with impunity, and today that will stop. Oakland demands that Big Tobacco cease its decades of profiling African American and low-income communities. Our Oakland legislation does the same. It focuses on the products that are specifically manufactured and marketed to appeal to young people, flavored with candy, with fruit flavors, and specifically, we are banning menthol cigarettes in Oakland. Although the manufacture and distribution of flavored cigarettes is banned by federal law, neither federal nor California laws restrict sales of flavored non-cigarette tobacco products, and our legislation is groundbreaking for this reason. We are banning menthol cigarettes. I just had to say it again. I want to say some stats about Oakland, because I'm here to speak about the legislation we're bringing forward in Oakland. Among Oakland Unified School District students, 78% of 11th grade tobacco smokers reported starting between the ages of 11 and 17. E-cigarette use tripled nationwide among high school youth from 2013 to 2014 and now has reached 27% among Oakland Unified School District 11th graders. According to our California Healthy Kids survey in 2015, over half of 11th graders at the Oakland Unified School District believe it is very easy to obtain cigarettes. And in a survey of 300 stores in Alameda County, 87% sold candy, mint, and liquor-flavored tobacco products and were located within 1,000 feet of a school. I am thrilled to be here today. I'm thrilled. Thank you so much, Malia Cohen, Supervisor Malia Cohen, and Mayor Ed Lee for allowing me to be here. I want to thank Valerie Yeager for your leadership, your expertise, and most of all, I want to thank Jamila English from my office, who has just been amazing in putting this legislation together. It serves as a model to other cities, and I'm thrilled that we can join this movement of cities working to stop Big Tobacco from targeting our most vulnerable communities. Cities must lead when the federal government is silent and complicit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The next speaker will be Dr. Valerie Yeager from UCSF. Yeager. I know there is a lot of excitement about San Francisco's citywide menthol and flavored ordinance. And believe me, this has been a long time coming. I want to thank Malia Cohen, our wonderful supervisor here in the city of San Francisco, Mayor Ed Lee, for his leadership as well. And I also want to thank, and you'll have a chance to hear from my colleagues from UC San Francisco. They're the reason why we're able to do this work here in San Francisco. So thank you, San Francisco Can. Yeah. You know, as the FDA had already taken action to protect some of the country's youth by banning candy and fruit-flavored cigarettes, African American children and other children of color benefited from no such protection, as menthol cigarettes, which are smoked by up to 95% of Black adolescent smokers, received a protected status. For almost a decade, some of us have been working really hard to repair this morally wrong inequity that was done at the federal level, where only some children are the beneficiaries of a federal policy intended to protect all. Though the prevalence of smoking in the United States has decreased, smoking rates among some of San Francisco's most vulnerable populations remain high. This is why San Francisco ordinance is local public health policy at its best. It is responsive to the scientific evidence that has been accumulating for over a decade against the tobacco industry's menthol cigarette. Evidence showing that menthol plays an important role in youth smoking initiation and keeping an established smoker smoking, and in making it extremely difficult for a smoker who wants to quit to do so. This evidence is documented in peer-reviewed studies published in prestigious journals such as Tobacco Control, Addiction, Nicotine and Tobacco Research, the American Journal of Public Health, and the Journal of the American Medical Association, to name just a few. We have major reports from the FDA and from its Tobacco Product Scientific Advisory Committee, from the California Medical Association, and from the World Health Organization, all of which call attention to the critical concern that menthol cigarettes threaten public health. Menthol is not just about taste, as the tobacco industry would have us believe. Menthol has an intimate relationship with nicotine, making tobacco products both attractive to youth and addictive at the same time. Maybe not everyone, every group has a problem with menthol, but the most socially and economically vulnerable of us do. In California, where we have some of the lowest smoking rates in the nation, we find disparities in the use of menthol cigarettes and other flavored tobacco products. The tobacco industry's aggressive menthol wars, where big tobacco companies fought to compete for the menthol market, took place in low-income African-American neighborhoods, where menthol advertisements have become part of the norm of everyday living for children. Whereas the proportion of black students in a school rises, so does the proportion of menthol advertisements in schools, in stores near these schools. And finally, we have an ordinance that is responsive to the community, where major black organizations such as Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, who at their national levels have adopted resolutions, again, calling for action against flavored tobacco products and/or menthol cigarettes. Thank God the city and county of San Francisco have the heart, the soul, and the guts to take a bold, innovative step toward regulating menthol cigarettes and other flavored tobacco products by restricting the sales of these products citywide. Finally, we can put the lives of our children, especially our children who are already struggling with social, economic, and environmental challenges, above the profits that are going into the pockets of an industry of adjudicated racketeers.
Thank you. One of our community partners that I want to recognize also is the Chief of Police. Chief Bill Scott, right here, is leading an organization, the San Francisco Police Department, that has conducted numerous sting operations that have found retailers guilty of selling tobacco products to underage youth. Thank you very much for being a partner, our partner in crime. Our partner in solving crime, stopping crime. Thank you. You know what I meant. Okay, with that said, I'd like to bring up another friend of ours in the health community, Dr. Tomas Aragon from the CCSF Health Officer. Dr. Aragon, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So for me, this is a day of a lot of pride. I was born and raised in San Francisco, grew up here, and to see this city to be the first one to do this, thank you so much. I'm so excited. And I want to just tell you very quickly a story. One thing to realize is that this affects all of us. My parents immigrated from Central America in the 1950s. And I remember like it was yesterday, the day that my mom said she felt some lumps in her neck. I touched those lumps. By that time, I'd already completed half of my residency training at UCSF. And I knew that those lumps in her neck were not good news. What I didn't realize is that it turned out to be lung cancer. The only exposure she had was secondhand smoke, okay? And so one thing to realize is this affects all of us, whether it's directly or it's secondhand smoke. We know today that 9 out of 10 lung cancers are caused by tobacco. We know that 3 out of 10 of all cancers are related to tobacco. We know that 8 out of 10 chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which is emphysema, is caused by tobacco. And we know that 3 out of every 10 that have a heart attack are caused by tobacco. So we're surrounded by the burden of disease from tobacco. While we have made a lot of progress in reducing the prevalence of use of tobacco, we still have a long way to go. We have scientists on the industry side who engineer, who design these products to be addictive. And because they lose their market through people like my mom who passed away, they have to recruit a new generation. And so these products are engineered and designed to make people addicted. And they start with the youngest because they know that if you reach the developing brain and you start early, those are going to be lifelong addictions. Now, the last point I want to make, and where we've made progress in San Francisco and we want to continue to make progress, one of our tools in public health is not just protecting clean air, but also preserving the social norms that we've built over decades about making smoking uncool, the thing not to do. And we have to continue to maintain clean air and the social norms, because other industries are going to come along and they're going to be promoting that. And we don't want that to change. And so that's what public health is really about. Public health is about preventing this so that we don't spend all this money on treatment on people who are addicted, and it's very hard to get them off. So again, I want to thank Supervisor Malia Cohen, Mayor Lee, UC San Francisco, everybody, San Francisco Tobacco-Free Coalition, Derek Smith, all the youth that's actually out there doing all this incredible work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we will hear from Dr. Stan Glantz from UCSF.
Well, it's a real pleasure to be here. For the TV cameras, make sure you get a picture of that basket.
Yes.
The basket is not candy. It's addictive, poisonous tobacco products. And that's what this ordinance is about. I've been at this for a very long time. I remember being here in 1983 when San Francisco passed its clean indoor air law. The tobacco companies sued, they forced a referendum on it, and it stood. And San Francisco, again, is moving into a huge position of leadership with Supervisor Cohen's ordinance. This is the first place in the country that is putting in an absolute bomb-proof ban on flavored tobacco products. And this, as Valerie Yerger said, this is something the FDA should have done a long time ago and hasn't. And just like everything else in tobacco, the leadership has always come from the community level, and it's often come from San Francisco. And it's really gratifying to see that happen again. And it's also very gratifying to work with my colleagues at UCSF who've been working actively through our San Francisco Cancer Center, SF CANS program, to take all the research which has been done, which often can just sit off in an ivory tower somewhere, and take it to the community and take it to the streets, educate people about what we know, and that built the foundation upon which this tremendously important piece of legislation sits. And I can pledge to you that we're going to be here doing everything we can to help you with the science for as long as you need it.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Dr. Jonathan Butler, a medical professional at UCSF, as well as a representative from the NAACP. Thank you.
Good morning. The NAACP's mission is to ensure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of all persons and eliminate hatred and discrimination. And the foundation and enjoyment of all such rights begin with healthy individuals and healthy communities. So the NAACP is committed to the health and well-being of African Americans and particularly concerned about preventing tobacco use among youth. As a social epidemiologist, I know that tobacco-related deaths continue to be the #1 preventable cause of death, claiming 47,000 African American lives a year. Tobacco-related deaths continue to claim more lives than violence, AIDS, car accidents, and non-tobacco-related cancers combined. The tobacco industry has a well-documented history of developing and marketing brands targeted to African Americans and their youth. And the tobacco industry manipulated the manufacturing of cigarettes to ensure the uptake and continued use of tobacco, especially by African American young people and other vulnerable populations. The tobacco industry has perniciously targeted African Americans with mentholated products, and as a result, nearly 83% of African American smokers smoke menthol cigarettes compared to 24% of white smokers. And again, let me reiterate, the foundation and enjoyment of all political, educational, social, and economic equality of rights of all persons begins with healthy individuals and healthy communities. And thus, the NAACP is in support of efforts to restrict the sale of menthol cigarettes and other flavored tobacco products because it impacts our African American community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Butler. The next woman I'd like to bring up and introduce you is Ms. Carol Magruder. She is a representative from the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council.
Good morning. I am so overwhelmingly happy and excited to reach this day. I am Carol Magruder. I'm the co-chair of the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council, and myself, along with Dr. Philip Gardner, who could not be with us today, and Dr. Valerie Yerger, we have been crisscrossing this country ever since the FDA was given the authority to, but has done nothing about menthol and flavored tobacco products. I want to say that I am a proud daughter of Bayview Hunters Point. I no longer live in the city, but I grew up there. And growing up there was not easy. I voluntarily bused myself with a phony address to George Washington High School, taking an hour-and-a-half bus ride each way to go to a good high school. I walked past the liquor stores, and my grandmother was one of the first African Americans to buy in Bayview. So I remember coming up to visit as a child, how clean it was, how the limestone in the buildings hurt my eyes because they were so sparkly, and seeing over the years things like redlining, which prevents businesses from getting business loans. Seeing the Safeway store send all of their expired meats to be sold at the Safeway that was on Williams. That's what I grew up with at Bayview. And so, and what does that have to do with tobacco? It has everything to do with tobacco, because while we try to send our children to get them home and back safe every day, the tobacco industry is there, beating that drum. While we're worried about our boys killing each other or being killed by the police, the tobacco industry is there beating that drum. It is our #1 killer, killing more than everything else. And I've worked on every issue. I've worked on AIDS. I've worked on black infant mortality. But tobacco remains the #1 killer of black people. And the tobacco industry has bought the silence heretofore of our leaders. But it's a new day with the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People coming on board, our oldest and boldest civil rights organization in the United States of America, with Delta Sigma Theta data, so the tobacco industry is no longer able to manipulate our leadership the way that it has. They're no longer able to buy our press the way that it has. And so we stand with you proudly. Malia, this is going to be a fight, and we're ready for it because we will not have another generation of our children succumbing to the addiction. Addiction is about access, and it's about brain chemistry. There's no race of people who are more susceptible to becoming addicts. It's about this industry having access to our children, to our community for decades, of giving away free tobacco products, Newports, like they did to Marie Evans in Boston when she was 9 years old, addicting her at 13, dead at 54, a woman who would be my age right now if she had lived. So that's what we're standing up to, and I'm glad that the police chief is here. Please come. Sorry to put you on the spot, because there are entities in this country who are being paid for by Reynolds American Tobacco, formerly the makers of Newport cigarettes, who are claiming that what we're doing is criminalizing our people. The criminals are the tobacco industry. They are federally adjudicated racketeers. We will be working with our police across this country. This is not about criminalizing black men who are smoking a cigarette at the bus stop, as I've been told. This is about getting in the income stream of the $3.3 billion that black people in this country spend with something that kills half of the people who use it. And so I'm so happy to see you. I will be getting to know you better, and we will be working this together and setting it as a model of enforcement of how it works, so that these products are out of our neighborhoods. Thank you.
All right, as we close out our speaking program, I have a treat for you. I want to introduce to you a woman by the name of Latasha Turner. She's also known as the 6-footer, the poet, to come and close us out. Please put your hands together and welcome Latasha.
How you guys doing? Okay, so this letter is for the CEO, the inventor, the brains, the doctor of tobacco. Thank you. Thank you for taking my mother away from me. Thank you for diminishing her time with me. Thank you for creating this cancer-causing, lung-collapsing, aging in a box of a disease. Thank you. No, you did not physically kill her, but you killed my time with her. For you created this disease, this cancer in a stick that caused her to get hooked to it. So thank you. See, as a child, I didn't understand why my mother would rather stand outside with a cigarette in her hand instead of inside with me playing Candyland. See, my mother always had a smoke in her hand instead of holding my hand. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. CEO, the inventor, the brains, the doctor of tobacco. How could you say that tobacco doesn't kill? Also that you can make a dollar bill. How could you say that tobacco doesn't kill when it contains things like ammonia and carbon monoxide? See, I can't blame my mother because you created her lover, and ever since she got in bed with it, her life has been over with. But now I must speak up. I must be her voice. Mr. CEO, my mother almost died. Both of her lungs collapsed, and the doctors thought they wasn't going to be able to bring her back. But my God had greater plans than that. See, I spent many nights beside her hospital bed where I cried, all because you lied. How could you say that tobacco doesn't kill? And then you're not caring because you say that it is our free will. But in my neighborhood, I seem to find more billboards marketing towards my kind. To me, that is a sign, because there are 10 times more signs targeting my kind. And how can you not see this unless you are legally blind? But I can see quite fine. I see that you are trying to kill off my kind. See, my mother's lungs are clear, and by the grace of God, she is still here. After being a chain smoker for almost 20 years, she hasn't touched a cigarette in about 4 years. 2 strokes and 2 heart attacks. I have you to thank for that. See, my mother will never be the same, and I have you to blame. But I will love her either way. But now I must speak up. I must be her voice, and I must say, no thank you, Mr. CEO, the inventor, the brains, the doctor of tobacco. I'll pass because tobacco kills. It kills about 1,300 people a day, targeting our teens at an alarming rate, the most preventable, expensive death in an alarming rate, and determining our teens' fate. and giving them an early expiration date. So the inventors, the brains, the doctors, Mr. CEO, I will continue to educate and speak up for my people, and we say no to tobacco because tobacco can kill you. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.